Wrestle Kingdom is in the books for another year. Welcome to the Instant Reaction Podcast, a little bonus action from the Clearwater Cleaning Solutions broadcast studio here in Calgary. My name is Peter Klein. This is the Couch Potato Diary Instant Reaction for Wrestle Kingdom 16 Night 2. Unbelievable show. Just wrapped up the main event. We will go through this one by one. Remember, rate, review, subscribe, follow me on social media, all that fun stuff. Let's get right into it, because again, it is 5 in the goddamn morning here in Calgary. Match number 1 on this card. 3 matches on the dark portion of this show in kind of the pre-show stuff. I will admit I didn't watch a lick of it. It's late here, and I slept through them. So I'm sure they were lovely matches, multi-man tags and whatnot. But the first match on the show, it was Robbie Eagles and Tiger Mask defending the Iwgp Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships against the Bullet Club's El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori and Ryusuke Taguchi and Rocky Romero. I don't know how much this was sold on the Japanese broadcast, but on the English broadcast, they sure made a lot out of Taguchi potentially. I think I called him Ryusuke 269s instead of, Becky 2 belts, because Taguchi was the 69th junior heavyweight champion in the history of the IWGP belt. And if he and Rocky Romero could pull off the win, he would become the member of the 69th IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. And that's just fantastic stuff. So we'll get into it here. I love seeing Tiger Mask this involved in things. It's cool to see the legends involved in this way. I think New Japan does a really good job of having the legends around, not focusing on them too much, but not embarrassing them either. One of the standouts to me, and he is always one of the standouts when we get into the junior heavyweight division, Taiji Ishimori, I think is one of the best wrestlers on the planet, and he is one of my favorite wrestlers to watch in New Japan and just in wrestling in general right now, and I really feel like he is being underutilized in this tag team specifically, so I am hoping that this is kind of the end of this tag team. I'm breaking up a lot of tag teams this weekend, and don't have a lot of follow-ups for them. So we'll see what comes out of this one. The match was a bit all over the place, but it was a fun, fast-paced match. The main story in this one, they get El Phantasmo down, they take off his boot, and wouldn't you know it, there is a tiny little piece of metal in that boot. So the referee makes the call of eliminating Phantasmo and Ishimori. An interesting way to end the metal boot, loaded boot story that's been going on all summer. I didn't think there were DQs in triple threat matches, and that was the only part that was kind of well, that's weird to me, but I'm not going to raise too much of a stink about it. The remaining teams exchange near falls, and in the end, Eagles gets the submission win on Rocky Romero, so Taguchi's dream of being the 69th Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champion is going to have to wait at least one more day. One of the things I took from this one is I really underrate Robbie Eagles. Like, in the ring, he is so smooth and just so crisp. As a personality, I find him rather blah, but from an in-ring perspective, I think he's really, really good and really talented, and I definitely need to give him more credit. One of the show stealers coming up next as Saya Kamitani, the Wonder of Stardom champion, and Tom Nakano from the Cosmic Angels taking on Starlight Kid, the High Speed champion, and Mayo Iwatani from Stardom. This is an amazing spotlight. This is the first time in like 20 years that there had been a women's match on the main portion of a Tokyo Dome show for New Japan, and this was the perfect showcase for Stardom. I was looking at a Stardom subscription during this match. It's something I need to do anyway. I've admitted before that that's a blind spot for me, and I have no good reason for it. I should be watching more Stardom, and these performers showed exactly why. You had Kid and Saya with a very quick start. Iwatani, and Kid doing dual feint, tiger feint kicks. Again, I'm apologizing for stumbling. It's 5 a.m. And then they hit some standing moonsaults. It was a tremendous match. It was quick. It was fluid. Starlight Kid looks like she is in fast forward every time. Iwatani, you can see why she is kind of the ace of of Stardom. And Kamitani and Nakano also showed out very, very well as well. In the end, Kamitani gets the victory. But I just thought this was a tremendous showcase for Stardom. Could not have gone any better for that promotion. Match 3, the King of Pro Wrestling, whatever the hell, as Shima takes on Chase Owens, takes on Toru Yano, takes on Minoru Suzuki. I laughed out loud at the spot where Shima had Yano in the death lock, and Suzuki kept like slapping him and knocking him over, so Shima would fall, and Yano would just start screaming even more because he's still in this lock. I thought that was really, really good stuff, and Shima got a lot of the spotlight in this bout, and it was really cool to see that early on. In the end, Suzuki hits the Gotch-style pile driver for the win, and I think this is an interesting evolution now of the King of Pro Wrestling, because now Suzuki gets to pick what the stipulations are in these matches, and that character is one that you can get very creative with. I would get concerned that it might kind of bleed into the same style as the Never Openweight Championship, but I think it's interesting, and I would like this a lot more if there was something on the line. Just at the end, you're the King of Pro Wrestling for the year. Great, fantastic. Nothing's come from that so far in the last 2 years. Whether it's, I don't know, a guaranteed spot in the G1, like, odds are you're going to be in that anyway. Or maybe it's the potential for like being able to cash that in, kind of as the option C thing with the X Division Championship and Impact. I think it would be interesting to have that, be able to cash it in, maybe not for a world title shot, but for a US title shot or for a Never Openweight Championship match. I think it would be really interesting. Speaking of Never, the 6-man tag team titles on the line. Hiroki Goto, Yoshihashi, fresh off of winning the IWGP World Tag Team Championships last night, teaming up with Yo to take on Evil, Yujiro Takahashi, and Sho, who are the defending champions. Yo hits a fantastic dropkick onto Sho, sends him to the floor. That was a little bit more of the fire that I wanted to see out of Yo last night. We saw that tonight, and then we got some of the more traditional Bullet Club stuff. Yujiro takes the corner pad out, and the early story is they're working away on Goto, and they're just having to cheat a whole lot. In the end, they distract the ref. Evil hits Yo in the penis with a wrench, and then tosses it to Sho, who hits him in the brain with it, and that's the end of that match. After a break, and after Noah comes in and calls out the New Japan roster, it was really, really interesting to see that, and I thought they did a good job of hyping up the pay-per-view a few days from now. We have our cleaning intermission. We come back with Gradle Khan against Sonata. It's a bit of a feeling out start. I find Sonata so interesting in this company and his place in it. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I'm always fascinated by his matches, but I always feel like there's a little bit extra that he can give. One of the interesting early parts in this match was the Gradle Khan teasing that he was worried about the dive to the outside. We saw that last night. We saw it again today. But then early on, he actually does it in the match. We have a series of counters to each man's submission hold. One of the nice ones was O'Khan with a very good counter. As Sonata's going for an O'Connor roll, Khan reaches around and grabs him with that claw. I thought that was really good. We get some more counter exchanges, and then just like that, Sonata gets the win. You had O'Khan try a moonsault and then into a claw, and then it's just a bit of a scramble, and Sonata gets the win. So the story they're telling is that the Great O'Khan was trying to beat Sonata at his own game, and Sonata just catches him for the win. I think this is the start of a big year for Sonata. Now, we've said that before, but I really, truly think it is. I was going to bring this up a little bit later on. This whole thing is spoiler alerts, right? So you probably know what's going to happen, and if not, you don't care. But the United Empire goes 0 for 3 on this night, and WH Park, I believe, was the one who brought it up on Post Wrestling. I wonder if this opens the door for Zack Sabre Jr. to take over this group and kind of lead it as a breakout for him and spin Ospreay into something else. He fits the dynamic of this group a little bit better, and I wonder if O'Khan trying to do a bit more of the Ospreay style and it costing him, and you could kind of tie it in with Zack Sabre Jr. saying, hey, look, I know your style better than this guy does. Let me lead you. I think that would be a very interesting way to go about things. Match number 6, Tetsuya Naito takes on Jeff Cobb. Cobb swarms Naito to start. Naito starts to work away on the knee to create some space. One of the fun spots in this one, and there were quite a few. Naito teases the Tranquilo pose and then hits a baseball slide onto Cobb. Once they're on the floor, Cobb counters Destino with a suplex into the ring post, and then just as Conor McGregor would describe it on The Ultimate Fighter, an interesting tud on the floor as he hit hard. When they're back in the ring, Cobb stays in control. Naito is slowing him with those shots to the knee. We see an elbow on Cobb, and then with Cobb down on the mat, instead of doing that kind of basement drop kick to the head, Naito does it to the knee. And then you have him do the, I'm going to butcher the Spanish on it, but the combinación cabron in the corner, where it's like he hits the drop kick, trips him as he's seated. He does the slingshot drop kick and normally hits him in the chest area. This time he exaggerates it a little bit more and hits the knee. It's those little details that make you go from a great performer to one of the elite performers, and that's where Tetsuya Naito really reminded us in this match that he is one of the best in the world. Cobb, though, was with him every step in the way. He hits a deadlift German. He's selling the knee really well. It didn't completely kill his offense, but he didn't ignore it either. The way he was moving and the way he was kind of adjusting his offense, I thought was actually selling the knee really, really well. And it comes into play in the finish. As Cobb goes for the tour of the islands, he kind of stumbles on it. Naito hits a counter, and then he hits Destino for the win, and that is something that will come up a little bit later on. Match number 7, Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Kenta, a no disqualification match for the United States Championship. Tanahashi, holy smokes. Hiroshi Tanahashi going all out with the kendo sticks early on. Kenta, though, does take the early advantage, but Tanahashi, there was no hesitancy from him in this match in using the weapons. We saw a little bit of it at the end, and we'll get to that, but he definitely was not shying away from it. He goes and gets a guitar, which I thought was a lovely touch, because he's the air guitar guy. That's been his shtick for forever. He grabs the guitar that was super not gimmicked and cranks Kenta in the head with it, and it just leaves a hole in there. It was oh boy, that looked like it sucked a lot. One of the stories that they tell is that at some point in this feud, Kenta hit a powerbomb onto Tanahashi on a pile of chairs. So Tanahashi counters by hitting a sling blade onto him. While he's laying on them, Tana goes for a high fly flow, which is a frog splash, and eats nothing but chairs. This looked so painful. Not the most painful of the match, but it looked so painful. But again, you have the guy who's been the ace of this company for so long just going balls to the wall in this match. Kenta will counter by piling all the chairs onto Tanahashi and hits a hesitation dropkick on him. Tanahashi gets out of a GTS for twist and shout, then he does it again onto the chairs. Kenta at one point was placed on a table and goes up. Tanahashi looked like he was setting up for a high fly flow through the table, but Kenta gets off of it, goes to the top rope, and hits a Falcon Arrow from the top rope through the table. Then Kenta grabs a massive ladder from under the ring, and this was where the English commentary, I thought, did a really good job. Instead of it's just like, yeah, of course, there's a giant fucking ladder under the ring. Why wouldn't there be? They explain that's the ladder that they use to set up all of the different lighting fixtures in the Tokyo Dome. So this is a huge ladder that Kenta gets on. It takes him a little bit of time to get up of it, though, and Tanahashi is able to get up, shakes him off, and this is where it takes a bit of a turn as Kenta, I don't know if he's supposed to get hung up on the ropes like we've seen in some of those spots before, but he falls nose first onto a garbage can and is gushing out of it. They said that on the English broadcast that it was a laceration to his eye. Kevin Kelly's at home, so he's watching the same broadcast we are, so it would be easy to miss, but it definitely looked like at least a broken nose for Kenta as he was bleeding good. Tanahashi climbs to the top of this ladder and from a mile in the sky hits a high fly flow, which is again the frog splash on Kenta through the table. The table's covered in blood, so is Kenta, and Tanahashi is covered in glory as he wins the United States Championship, and you could see after there was a bit of regret in Tanahashi, as there was kind of I won it, but at what cost sort of a moment there. But I thought this was a spectacular match, and it wasn't one of those, like, there was some kind of plunder things where I'm going to hit you with the trash can lid. No, I'm going to hit you with the trash can lid. Like, there was some of that shit in there, but overall, there was a story that was told in this match. It tied in months worth of storytelling from these two. I thought this was an exceptional match, and one that I think you should go out of your way to watch. Which brings us to the main event of the evening. It is Kazuchika Okada defending his IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against the man who never lost it, Will Ospreay. There's a bit of a methodical pace early on. Ospreay hits a spinning, I have here sidewalk slam. I think he turned it into a backbreaker and I just missed it. But either way, he spun a whole lot, and while he was holding him kind of like a baby, and then crashed him into something. Okada slows his momentum by hitting an elevated flapjack, and this was where you kind of got reminded. Because after the speaking out, and while Will Ospreay not directly involved, kind of indirectly by potentially blackballing someone who was involved in that, you just, it's tough for me to get into a Will Ospreay match, and it was at this point where you remember, oh right, this guy is still one of the best in the world at this, even though as a human being, there's a good exchange on the apron. Okada hits a dropkick that sends Ospreay just flying. Okada tries that diving cross body block spot that we saw last night, but Ospreay is ready for it, hits a super kick. Okada comes crashing down on his knee. Ospreay climbs up high onto one of those, the lighting truss things, and hits a perfect moonsault onto Okada, and this is where we start to really pick up now into kind of the second and third act of this match. Okada catches Ospreay, who's doing the Sasuke special, like the cartwheely deal, and then diving to the outside. Okada catches him and hits a tombstone pile driver, which was great. Then you get a phenomenal series of counters that sees Ospreay countering an Okada dropkick with a Liger bomb for 2. It was excellent after he countered a Rainmaker and a German suplex. He has Okada hung up on the ropes, hits a shooting star press, then he does the same with him laying in the ring. Ospreay hits the Oz Cutter for 2, and then I always think I'm hearing it wrong. I believe they call it the Chelsea Grin, but it's his elbow to a prone Okada, hitting him on the back of the head. It's that move. He goes for another one. Okada ducks and then goes for the tombstone. Ospreay counters, hits a tombstone of his own, and then mocks the Rainmaker pose. He goes for the Rainmaker. Okada counters and hits Ospreay's Stormbreaker for 2. Ospreay then gets out of a Rainmaker by hitting a Spanish Fly, and both men are down. As they get to their feet, Ospreay hits a Super Oz Cutter for 2. He tries a Stormbreaker. Okada counters with a spinning Tombstone, and then the Rainmaker is countered into the Stormbreaker. Okada gets out, hits a Discus Lariat, drills him with the Rainmaker, and Ospreay kicks out at 2.999999999. At this point, we are getting into just a phenomenal pace in this match. Both guys working their ass off. Both guys proving why they are two of the best that this planet has to offer in professional wrestling. Okada goes for the money clip. Ospreay reaches for the ropes. Okada flips him away, tries the Rainmaker. Ospreay hits his own Rainmaker. They exchange big forearms, and this is where Okada starts to pull ahead as he gets the best of him and drops him. Okada hits 2 short arm clotheslines, then tries a Rainmaker, but Ospreay counters by tossing him and then hitting a forearm smash. Then he drills him with the Chelsea Grin, and this was his longest near fall of the night with a 2 as well. Ospreay, this was the part I didn't like. He hits the pump knee that looked an awful lot like a V-trigger, and then drills him with a headbutt. And it's like, we just watched Katsuyori Shibata last night be the cautionary tale. Hey, when you do some of this shit, it can go really poorly for you. And I get the strong style and all of that stuff. We don't need headbutts in 2021. That one, honestly, that took it from being a 5-star match for me to down to like 4.5 or 4.75. Like I could not get this to 5 stars because of that spot. It made me so uncomfortable as I hit my desk with a baseball that I've been fidgeting with. Ospreay then goes charging in. Okada catches him with a picture-perfect dropkick and then delivers another Rainmaker to close the show. This was spectacular. The last few matches on this card, like there are, talk about like, oh yeah, go back and check this one out. You definitely want to go check out the women's tag team match. You absolutely want to see Naito against Cobb, Tanahashi against Kenta, and Okada against Ospreay. This whole show is, the first match, there's some fun stuff in there, but like this whole show is one that you are wanting to go back to. And I feel better about the company coming out of these two nights as I did coming in, which is kind of what you would want coming out of this show. You feel good about Okada as champion. If Shingo was the champion too, I would be totally okay with that. As Okada is delivering his speech, Naito comes out and Okada says, what better way to go into our 50th anniversary than with Naito against Okada? We've seen it before, but the feud's fantastic. I think that you're going to have some very good matches with that. And then you have some new faces on the come up. We've seen Sonata hang around title contention before. I think this could be the year he gets into the main event picture. Zack Sabre Jr. is always hanging around that. Jeff Cobb certainly deserves that spotlight as well. You have Shingo, who is still in the title picture as well. And then you have guys who would be in kind of an intercontinental title range with Taichi, with the Gradle Khan. I thought they implemented the Stardom stuff really well. I thought they implemented the Noah stuff really well. This felt like a bit of a rejuvenation for New Japan Pro Wrestling. I was very meh on the company coming into this, and even coming into tonight after night one, there was a couple of matches that I liked, but this one really reminded me what New Japan is capable of. So it was, yeah, just a great night. And now I'm excited to see what goes on with the Noah show. I'm excited to see what is next for Stardom as they go into 2022 on a bit of a high note. This is just one of those shows where you come away feeling better about professional wrestling. And that's all we can ask from one of the biggest shows of the year. That's going to do it for me. I need some sleep, and I need to stop yelling while others in this household try to get some sleep. Later on this afternoon, we'll have the more traditional Couch Potato Diary podcast. Got a few things to talk about in the world of the National Hockey League, and we'll have the bad fantasy team that probably beat yours. So we will get into all of that coming up on the show later this afternoon. Remember, rate, review, subscribe wherever possible. Check out Clearwater Cleaning Solutions, the studio sponsor for Couch Potato Diary, and I'll talk to you later today.